This is Rita Barrett from Harleysville, Pennsylvania. You're listening to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report for Sunday, June the 29th. My name's Sheldon. I am here with Jill, and we thank you for tuning into our show. We have 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio. Lots of things going on out there in the world these days on the radio, so we want to get you caught up with everything. A lot of special events coming up for some of the holidays as well, so we'll have that information for you later on in the show. First off, we have a special shout out, and that shout out is going out to our friend Glenn Hauser, host of World of Radio, who's hit a landmark in his broadcasting. Last week was the 2,300th edition of Glenn Hauser's World of Radio. It's a half-hour weekly program. If you've never heard it, I don't know where you've been. And if you're into radio, you should be listening. The half-hour weekly program consists of news about radio around the world, particularly shortwave broadcasting, but also has information on other aspects of radio and broadcasting. So we wanted to congratulate Glenn on his milestone broadcast and thank him for his tireless efforts and dedication, providing vital information to all of us in the world of radio. And as a matter of fact, it was World of Radio that inspired me to come up with the suggestion to put this show on the air. So we have Glenn to thank for that. And that was back in November of 1987. So I did a rough calculation, and we're somewhere around 1,950. So we're another year or so, we'd be closing in on 2,000. So Glenn's 300 ahead of us, 300 and some ahead of us. So we looked it up, and his program actually started on a university station down in Knoxville, Tennessee. And that was in the year 2000. And then in 2002, the program moved on to shortwave and has been there ever since. So you can actually check out some of his archives and all of his other information on his website, worldofradio.com. So again, congratulations to Glenn Hauser.
In our next story, we have Israel-Iran conflict drives audiences to threatened U.S. media via AIB Global Media Briefing. U.S.-funded media organizations Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, RFERL, and Middle East Broadcasting Network, MBN, are bringing millions of people in Iran and across the Middle East real-time, 24/7 news coverage of the war between Israel and Iran. As fighting began over the weekend, Iranians surged to RFERL's Persian language service, Radio Farda, for news and information. On Friday, the 13th of June, Farda's extremely popular Instagram profile attracted 62.5 million video views, a spike of 344%, and traffic to its website rose by 77% compared to its 30-day average. Farda is increasing its coverage to include 10-minute audio news bulletins at the top of the hour 24/7 to meet the needs of its audiences. Meanwhile, there's news about transmitting stations owned by the U.S. Agency for Global Media. The relay station in Kuwait that was closed down in early June has been reactivated to allow 15 minutes of VOA Persian to be broadcast to Iran and neighboring countries. It is unclear who is operating the station, as the AIB understands a manager had been sent to Kuwait, presumably from Washington, D.C., to close the operation. It is still unclear what is happening within Voice of America. Reports suggest that on Friday, the 20th of June, layoff notices were delivered to 639 staffers on the payroll. It included at least 3 members of the Persian language team who had left the building for a break and were not permitted to return, even though the Persian language radio and TV services had resumed in part. The mixed messages are confusing. Is VOA on the scrap heap? Will a skeleton service remain in certain languages, such as Persian? Does anyone at the top of the organization have a strategy? At the same time, The USAGM transmitting station at Sao Tome and Principe off the west coast of Africa has been handed over to the country's government. The station, established in the 1990s, ceased operations in July 2024 before the change of U.S. administration that had been actively closing U.S. international broadcasting stations. It is not known what the Sao Tome government intends to do with the facility. Lots of questions, lots of unknown, lots of what do you do, what is going to happen. Do you have any idea of what's going to happen or what you should do? But at least some stations coming back, and by the looks of it, they're coming back with a huge audience, because this just tells you these people need news, need to have outlets out there that has all the stories about what's happening.
You know, it didn't take very long for a new conflict to emerge right after all of these VOA transmissions and some of the Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty services were shut down. At least someone there decided, oh, this might be important and these people may need some information. We still don't quite know the content of those broadcasts. Yep. You know, the content is going to need to analyze exactly what's being said. Are things a different spin being put on these broadcasts from what they were before? We don't really know that at this point in time. The majority of staff axed at the Voice of America. This by Ben Johansson of Politico via Radio World. The Trump administration last Friday sent out termination notices to hundreds of employees at the Voice of America. Included in that group are employees working for the network's Persian language service who were called back from administrative leave just last week in the wake of Israel's attack on Iran, according to two people familiar with the decision. The move, which makes official what had long been expected since hundreds of contract employees got termination notices in early May, is a part of the Trump administration's sweeping target to downsize the government and remake America's role in the global order. Critics of the administration's focus on the Voice of America have said that the network played a vital role in combating disinformation abroad. But the administration says these cuts are in service of cutting waste and putting American taxpayers first. Today, we took decisive action to effectuate President Trump's agenda to shrink the out-of-control federal bureaucracy, Senior Presidential Advisor Kari Lake said in a statement released last Friday. The move eliminates 1,400 jobs at the U.S. Agency for Global Media, the VOA's parent agency, roughly an 85% cut to its workforce. The last day on payroll for the employees will be Labor Day. Some of those affected by Friday's cuts who are not old enough for mandatory retirement are being terminated without severance pay, according to one of the people. The move could contradict USAGM's policy on severance. As our legal term fights for our rights under the law, we call on Congress to continue its long tradition of bipartisan support of VOA, the named plaintiffs in VOA's lawsuit against the Trump administration said in a statement. Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, and extremist groups are flooding the global information space with anti-American propaganda. Do not cede this ground by silencing America's voice. Lake said in her statement that 250 employees will remain across the USAGM, VOA, and the Office for Cuba Broadcasting. She noted that none of the OCB's 33 employees were terminated. The government-funded network, which was founded 80 years ago to combat Nazi disinformation during World War II, has largely unsuccessfully fought the administration's decision in court. The administration sent RAF notices to employees in small batches for weeks. But Friday's notice could deliver the coup de grace for VOA after decades of providing the world with accurate information in countries where media is state-run. Now, Kari Lake was appearing at a hearing just this week and was really sticking to her guns with Trump government's decision to cut the VOA and scrap it totally. She even said in one of her statements, it needs to be taken down and rebuilt in a different means, a different way. So where that's going to go, we really don't know at this point. But whatever the VOA was, it doesn't look like it will be that again. It will be, if it is anything, it will be something different.
Well, the next story is the Association for International Broadcasting dismayed as Togo bans French international media for 3 months. This is via AIB Global Media Briefing. The Association for International Broadcasting is dismayed by the decision of Togo's High Authority for Audiovisual and Communications, the HAAC, to suspend the broadcasts of France 24 television and Radio France Internationale in the country for 3 months. According to the press reports, HAAC claims that the Paris-headquartered broadcasters have repeated failures already reported and formally recalled in terms of impartiality, rigor, and verification of facts. In 2024, the HAAC put RFI on notice for unfair treatment of information and dissemination of false news about the country. The suspension of independent fact-based news organizations deprives citizens of Togo of important information sources, says AIB Chief Executive Simon Spanswick. At a time when rumor spreads on social media platforms, the checks and balances provided by international broadcasters such as RFI and France 24 are vital to counter mis- and disinformation. The AIB calls on the HAAC to rescind its reported suspension rapidly and to allow RFI and France 24 to resume broadcasting in Togo. Also in June, a correspondent working for France TV5 Monde, Flore Monteau, has been arbitrarily detained in Togo. Monteau had been covering anti-government demonstrations in Lomé and was filming the dispersal of protesters by security forces. CPJ says that police seized her equipment and forced her to delete footage of the protests. She was also required to unlock her mobile phone by the police. Togo, with a population of just under 9 million, is ranked 121st in the World Press Freedom Index 2025 that is published by Reporters Without Borders. Well, this tells you that every time we talk about, shortwave's not needed, we just broadcast from FM outlets or local outlets. Well, that's the problem is when it works, it's fine. But when the government decides we don't want you there for a while, you still need to have some other means of contacting and having your program go through. Because at any time, any country can, reverse its decision and decide, nope, you're not welcome anymore.
At least this is only for 3 months, if people do have shortwave, they can at least find the information some other way. But I'm sure, there were some probably FM relays going on in Togo where locals were able to hear it on their local broadcasting systems. So at least for 3 months, they won't be able to. So hopefully they look for other sources that will give them that information that they're looking for.
So what's happening with our sun? Well, our sun this week had one big coronal hole, which is space in the sun where the atmosphere is thin, and it lets the solar wind actually go through at a faster speed, and it created some disturbances all week with, at times, G1 class geomagnetic storms. And so the conditions were high and low, depending on the day and on the time of day. And it caused a lot of disturbances. This week, maybe things could be a little better. The coronal hole is moving off, so the solar wind that is still a little fast, which should actually calm down. There is one sunspot, 4120, that has and is capable of some solar flares, and that could also create problems this week. But overall, we're hoping for quieter conditions. Sunspot number 91, the solar flux 117, to witness all of the sun's activity and how the bands are. You need a radio, and you need to listen.
I'm Richard Cuff of Allentown, Pennsylvania. You're tuned to the International Radio Report. 30 minutes of news about radio on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
Our next story is about an iconic radio DJ making a major announcement after legendary 55-year career. This is via Radio Insight. The doctor is out. After spending more than half a century playing some of the quirkiest and funniest music imaginable, while also launching the career of Weird Al Yankovic, the legendary radio personality Dr. Demento is retiring. Dr. Demento, whose real name is Barry Hansen, began hosting the Dr. Demento Show in October 1970 on KPPC in Pasadena, California, now known as K-Rock. A syndicated version of the show launched in 1974 and ran until 2010. And since then, fans have been able to listen to the Dr. Demento Show through its official website. In a recent episode, after counting down a monthly top 10, the good doctor told his loyal Dementos and Dementites that he was ending his historic career. I'm now 84 years old, and I've been doing this show for nearly 55 years, about 2/3 of my life, he said, according to the Pittsburgh Reporter. It's been a blast, but I have come to the decision that I need to hang up my top hat soon. The show you just heard is the last of my regular shows. Although regular programming has ended, Dr. Demento will host a series of bi-weekly retrospective episodes leading up to a grand finale in October, culminating in his 55th anniversary. The Dr. Demento Show began as a free-form rock program before Hansen, an active collector of novelty records, started sharing the oddball songs with his listeners. He filled the airwaves with songs like Bobby Boris Pickett's The Monster Mash, Benny Bell's Shaving Cream, and Barnes & Barnes's Fish Heads. On March the 14th, 1976, Dr. Demento changed music with a Dr. Demento exclusive. After playing Frankie Yankovic's How Many Burps in a Bottle of Beer, Dr. Demento brought another fellow who plays the accordion. He then played Belvedere Cruisin' by a young Alfred Yankovic. The response was so positive that Yankovic, newly christened Weird Al, continued to write more parodies like My Bologna, his take on the Knack's My Sharona. Dr. Demento then funded Yankovic's first EP, another one, Rides the Bus, which helped Yankovic secure a record deal and kickstart his career, which is still ongoing. Yankovic is currently still on tour. Hansen, who has a BA and an MA in classical and folk music, was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in 2009. Now, maybe this is something that our listeners, particularly those here in Montreal or the Montreal region, can help us out with. I remember listening to the Dr. Demento Show on a Montreal radio station a number of years ago, quite a ways back. And someone asked me last weekend, what station was it? And I do not remember. And Gilles, you were just trying to do some research on it. We're not able to locate.
No
so
way.
We need your help. We'd love if anybody out there, maybe you worked at the station that was broadcasting it and are listening to us, drop us an email, radioreport@yahoo.com. We'd love to know what radio station here in the Montreal region the Dr. Demento Show was aired. And if you happen to know exactly when it was too, would be very helpful.
So we've got a couple of special broadcasts coming up, and the first one is special Pop Shop Radio Canada Day shows. This is via Tony Pavic of Pop Shop Radio in Hope, British Columbia. Get ready for our big Canada Day celebrations. We'll be partying with two different shows. First will be 250 kilowatt from Wolferton, UK at 03 UT July 1st, beamed to North America, and the second will be at 03 UT July 2nd, also from Wolferton to North America, but using DRM at 80 kilowatt. Both will be on 11960 kilohertz, and the beam is 306 degrees for both broadcasts. You may ask why DRM to North America. The reason is that I want to do a proof of concept showcasing DRM. Therefore, because many people have SDR capable of DRM or web access to Kiwis, we want to give it a go. Reception reports will receive a special physical QSL card and small gift for the first 25 reports. There's the Canada Day show number 1 also on at 1600 UT on July the 3rd, 3955 and 9670. This is from channel 292. Will be good for Europe. And the Canada Day show number 2 will also be at 1700 UT July 3rd, 3955, 9670 kilohertz from channel 292. So in Europe, you'll be able to get that. And don't forget, if you don't have any DRM capable radios or anything at home, Kiwi SDRs online have DRM capability when you go and tune them. So you'll be able to actually decode that DRM transmission and listen to it, and do send a report in. The second special transmission coming up is the SAQ Grim Sweden that will air its 100th anniversary broadcast on July 2nd, 2025. So on July 2nd, 1925, Grimton radio station was officially inaugurated. The radio traffic did already start on December 1st the year before, but now it was time of the official ceremony. The King of Sweden, Gustav V, the inventor of the amazing 200 kilowatts alternator and the massive 6-tower antenna, Ernst F.W. Alexanderson, as well as the Vice President of Radio Corporation of America, David Sarnoff, was there, together with several other prominent guests. The large and shiny Alexanderson alternator was put to life, and a message to the American President, Calvin Coolidge, was transmitted to the receiving station at Riverhead, Long Island, New York, in the United States. The American President replied and assessed the new radio installations as crucial for relations between Sweden and the USA. Now we welcome all for the 100th anniversary at Grimton Radio Station, Sweden, on Wednesday, 2nd of July, 2025. The site is open, free of charge for all visitors, with an extensive program all day. The unique Alexanderson alternator from 1924 with the call sign SAQ is scheduled for 2 transmissions over the antenna on very low frequency of 17.2 kilohertz CW. To attend one of the transmissions in the transmitter hall, a ticket will be required. SAQ transmission schedule, well, if you can't make it to Sweden, the first thing that you can do is at 0820 UTC, go on their live YouTube broadcast. That's where it's going to start. 8:30 UTC, startup of the alternator. At 9 hours UTC, transmission of a message. Then there's a second transmission at 12:20 UTC. The live YouTube broadcast begins. 12:30 UTC, startup of the alternator. And at 13 hours UTC, transmission of a message. Live video from the World Heritage Grimton radio station. Both transmission events can be seen live on the YouTube channel. We'll have all the links to that. There may be some test transmissions preliminary on July 1st between 11 hours to 14 hours UTC. During the test, SAQ will be on air shorter periods of time when we will be carrying out some tests and measurements. You can send your comments and welcome to info@alexander.n.se. QSL reports to SAQ. The QSL reports to SAQ are most welcome and appreciated. For guaranteed EQSL from us, please report using our online form that we'll share the link. Our confirmation of reports by email, mail, bureau is not guaranteed. Please only send one report covering both transmissions. The online form will be open from July 2nd until July 27th. With that, there's an amateur radio station that will also be broadcasting. The SK6SAQ station will be operating during the day on the following frequencies: 3517.2 kHz CW, 7017.2 kHz CW, 14017.2 CW, and there will be 2 single sideband transmissions, 3755 kHz and 7140 kHz, both in lower sideband on these bands. So the QSL reports to SK6SAQ are kindly received via email at info@alexander.n.se. All the links, all the emails, everything will be posted so that you have all the details. 2 fun events, 2 fun things to try for. So we have some special events coming up in the amateur radio world.
Two big ones coming up over the next little while. We hope you have some fun with these. One of them is really a lot of fun. We've participated in it the last couple of years, actually. It's the 17th annual 13 Colonies event. It's going to run from July 1st through the 7th. All HF bands will be in play, including the WARC bands, with the exception of 60 meters. They'll even have Simplex on 2 meters and 6 meters, which is encouraged. And special calls for the 13 colony stations are K2A through K2M. Plus, there's a few bonus stations, one in the UK, Gulf Bravo 13 COL, one in France, Tango Mike 13 COL, and one in Philadelphia, Whiskey Mike 3, Papa Echo November. The Southeast stations are on the East Coast and are very close to each other. It will be harder for these states to contact each other, so the use of 40 to 160 meters is encouraged. All modes of operation may be represented: SSB, CW, RTTY, digital, etc. The mode of operation is up to the individual colony state station, so please refer to the state information pages for details. And attention to all shortwave listeners. You will also qualify for the certificate. Follow the instructions on the certificate page when you submit your logs. A special SWL logo will be affixed to the certificate for you. One or all 13 stations log will qualify you. Just log all of the 13 colony states and you can get a complete set of custom special events QSL cards also. All 13 are different QSL requests to be made to each individual colony state station with a self-addressed stamped envelope. So it's a lot of fun to chase them on the bands and try to log them. We have some really nice certificates that they actually issued in the past for contacting or hearing all of these stations. So you've got 7 full days, July 1st through the 7th, to do it. And there is a website, 13colonies.us, with all the details.
Yep, I'll definitely be working those stations for sure.
And it is Canada Day coming up on July 1st, and every year the Radio Amateurs of Canada hold the Canada Day contest. So enjoy making contacts across Canada's 10 provinces and 3 territories. We hope to have a full slate of RAC official stations from each area. Contacts with stations in Canada or VE0 Maritime Mobile Canadian stations are worth 10 points. Contacts with stations outside of Canada are worth 2, and contacts with the RAC official stations are worth a big 20 points. So right across all the zones, 2, 3, 4, right across the country, the call signs will have a suffix of Romeo Alpha Charlie. So look for any of those stations on all the bands, CW and phone, and 160 through 2 meters. So it's a lot of fun. If you want to try to contact stations from all 10 provinces and 3 territories, this is a good day to do it on July the 1st.
And we are out of time.
We thank you for listening once again this week. We would love to hear from you, especially if you can help us out with that Dr. Demento quiz. Our email address is radioreport@yahoo.com. Our program is live streamed and archived at ckut.ca here in Montreal. Our Facebook group, we invite you to join. We welcome Ronnie Peters and Lawrence Taylor this week. We're at 985 members. We invite you to join and help us reach that 1,000 goal. And finally, our YouTube channel. You can go listen and watch our shows on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@IRR. We invite you to subscribe to the channel. Have a great week, everyone. To all our Canadian friends, happy Canada Day, and we will talk to you again next Sunday here on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
Bye-bye.